I'm getting so close to finishing off the kitchen renovation here, but there's one big problem staring me in the face right here. There's a big section of the countertop in the kitchen island just missing, but I've got an idea to fix it. The reason that we've got this gap is because I did a concrete countertop. The concrete portion of the island is only 8 feet long due to the limitations in size of the melamine sheets that we use to make the concrete forms. So the idea I have to finish off the island is a butcher block countertop. But there's gonna be some challenges and twists to this butcher block. First is the design. Because I've got maple flooring running diagonally in this room, I'm gonna try to go with the flow of the maple flooring, go with the feng shui of the room if you wanna sound all sophisticated, and do a diagonal butcher block countertop that runs in the same direction as the diagonal wood flooring. Second, because we've got different kinds of material in this island, I've got to figure out a good way to transition between the butcher block countertop and the concrete so it doesn't look janky. We want this thing to look professional. I'm pretty excited to see how this turns out, so let's dive in. Today I'm heading out to Al Lumber and we're gonna pick up a bunch of maple in order to make a butcher block counter, and big surprise, something I'm excited about. We got my buddy Michael Alm meeting us there, and he's gonna help us with this whole project. Got Michael here with me. We got to pick out the maple. We're debating between hard or soft maple. Soft maple really isn't that soft. Debating between hard maple and not quite as hard maple.
Yeah, hard maple is harder on the tools.
How do you like Chicago's wood?
It's pretty good. I'm impressed.
Holy shit, it's you! You have so much patience, it's ridiculous. Like, oh my god, I'll show you the stuff he does. He makes like plywood pattern stuff. It's just like unbelievable. I was like, can you take your mask off? I saw you yesterday. You guys mind if I get a picture?
After the brief interlude, we are back. Actually, we're doing hard maple because, well, that's all they really have in 8/4 of an inch or 2 inches. We'll be cutting it down, ripping it out to 2-inch tall strips by about 44 inches long. So we need to figure out how many of those we need to make the counter.
They're a little over 8 feet tall. So we'll get 2 this way, and then when we rip cut it, they're about 7 inches. With a 2-inch strip, we'll only get 3 out of that.
So basically that means 6 total out of each of these 8-foot boards.
Yeah.
So 3 boards will be good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, that'll only be about $300, maybe a little less than that for that countertop. So not bad. So December in Chicago, it's raining, which is great because it's not snowing, but not great because that means we got to shrink wrap all the wood so it doesn't get wet on the way home on our roof rack. I really need a truck.
Yeah, why don't you have a truck?
I'm holding out for the Cybertruck. I don't know.
Yeah, keep waiting.
Not a body, just wood. We're ready to go. We're back in the shop. We got all the wood unloaded. It's actually 2 days later now because Michael caught some nasty bug, not COVID, but some sort of, well, you're not gonna talk about it, but you feeling better?
I'm much better now.
All right, awesome. We're gonna start milling all the wood up, basically breaking it down into little bitty pieces that we can glue back together in order to make the butcher block countertop. This is a dusty process. We just jointed, what, 7, 8 boards now? And we're already got a full dust bag over here. Look at this thing. It's kind of cool. You can actually see each board. This is like its own layer of the dust collector. So we got all these strips of the hard maple cut up. Each of them are about 2 1/4 inches thick and 1.5 inches wide. And now we get to the part where there is a little bit of trickiness because we're gonna be doing a diagonal butcher block counter. So what we need to do when we get to the boards that are coming across here is to cut each board so that just a little bit of each end overhangs the end. And that means we'll be wasting a lot less material when all these ends are chopped off to make a straight edge for the counter later on. And this is one of those things that seems pretty simple, but you just don't want to screw it up and end up wasting a bunch of pretty expensive hardwood. So I basically just have laid it out and wrote a label on each piece of wood to make sure that I cut each piece to the right length. And I'm just gonna cut them and lay them out here as we go to make sure visually, before we do any gluing at all, everything is correct. Before we go further, a quick message from this video's sponsor, PenFed. PenFed is a credit union that offers amazing rates on loans, credit cards, checking accounts, and more. PenFed was originally founded in 1935 to serve military families, but today, anyone and everyone who is a U.S. citizen or permanent U.S. resident is eligible to be a member of PenFed. And in case you aren't familiar with what a credit union is, this means that PenFed is a not-for-profit and member-owned co-op, which in turn means they don't have to pay shareholders and can instead offer great rates to their members. PenFed has way too many products and services to list, but I'll give you just a few here. Loans of all types, including car loans and mortgages. They offer credit cards with super low fees and awesome rewards, more points, more cash back, and lower interest rates. And of course, PenFed has an extensive network of branches and ATMs, including 85,000 fee-free ATMs, because we all hate those transaction fees just to access our own money. PenFed strives to help their members do better financially no matter where you live or work. Their mission is to help you earn and save more with their amazing rates and low fees. So if you're in the market for a car loan, a new mortgage, or just want a better checking account, do your finances a favor, head to the link in the description to check out PenFed for yourself. Thanks again to PenFed for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back into it. I think everything is cut to length now. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous because if these pieces start shifting, then you could end up with a shape that's curved. And when the boards are running diagonal, it's just really easy for them to slide out of that square. So what I've done to maximize the chances that this goes successfully, I have drawn clamping lines that run perpendicular to the boards. And I also took the foam square that's the exact size of the countertop, put it on here and just marked exactly where the countertop's supposed to go, so that as long as I get those lines that I marked for the countertop lined up when I'm doing the glue up, then it should turn out all right. So I just realized as I lay this out on the clamps that it's a little too big to fit all the 4-foot clamps I have. So we're just gonna glue up everything we can with these, and then I'm gonna come up with something else to basically add on the pieces that are on the two corners. Not sure exactly how I'm gonna do that, but I got a couple ideas. We'll come back to that. Let's worry about this first. Future me here, because I realized that I somehow lost the footage of those last few pieces going in, and some of you might wonder how I clamped those when I couldn't get my clamps to reach during the first glue up. So over here you got a very, very rough sketch of the glue up. Black boards are the ones that were glued during the first glue up. Red ones we still got to do. So ideally you want the clamping pressure to be perpendicular to the two objects you're clamping together, which would mean you want it coming from this direction all the way across. I can't even draw a straight line, but you get the idea. You want it perpendicular this way. I essentially was able to very carefully maneuver the clamps so that while they weren't flush, there was enough clamping pressure and grip with the rubber on the edges of the clamps that I didn't need to do it perpendicular. It was like off center by about 5 or 10 degrees. Basically clamps coming kind of like this across, coming here, and kind of fanning out like that on both sides. Solution wasn't that crazy, but figured some of you guys might want to know. And by the way, those bar clamps and all the clamps in this video were provided by channel sponsor Rockler Woodworking. They're amazing clamps I use every day, so I'll throw a link in the description if you guys are interested. With that note, let's go remove those clamps and get to flattening this on the CNC. Oh, it's heavy. Yep, it is heavy. Now we flip and do the other side. My stoke meter is off the charts. I think it's just gonna look fire with the diagonal running the same direction as the floor, combined with the concrete, maple, concrete black cabinets. Mwah! I cannot wait to see this all come together, but we will come back, trim this up later. We actually can't trim it to its final size until the concrete countertops get here. So I will be back once we can start trimming. Today we got the concrete countertop portion of the island installed and secured. Now I can trim down the butcher block island to the exact size that we want. The concrete countertop, by the way, is in a separate video. You'll want to check that out. So now I can take this sort of stair-step rough sheet and cut it down to a rough rectangle. I'm then gonna take it upstairs and just mark it right next to the concrete countertop so I can make sure that it fits the island perfectly. This thing is so thick that my track saw is struggling to get through it in one pass. Means we're gonna have to come back and take 2 passes to get all the way through. The last thing I'm gonna do tonight is just take a router and clean up the edges where the track saw blade didn't quite go all the way through and left a little bit on the edge here. So next up, I'm using the CNC to route a rabbet into the butcher block countertop. The rabbet depth is gonna be exactly the same as the height of the concrete countertop upstairs so that it'll kind of sit over the edge of that and lock into the concrete countertop. I used some scrap plywood. I made a little jig that allows me to line the butcher block up so that I know that I'm getting a perfectly straight rabbet along the edge. Well, after taking the countertop upstairs, seeing it in place, I like how it looks, but I might have to call an audible here. The original plan was to have the butcher block be thicker than the concrete countertop, but the exact same width, and then have this rabbet all the way across the butcher block so that it would notch over the concrete countertop. And that meant you would actually see the rabbet from the side. But as soon as I saw it in place, I thought it might actually look really cool if there was a notch instead of a rabbet all the way across. So the butcher block was wider on each side by the same amount that it is thicker than the concrete countertop, and kind of has a wraparound effect to create a perfect seam on all 3 sides of the concrete. Fortunately, I made the butcher block oversized in both dimensions, and I've got about 4 inches extra to play with. That means that I can cut off the rabbet I made, cut in the notch, take it upstairs, see how I like it. If I like it, I'll keep it, and if I don't, cut that off again and recut the rabbet to go back to the original plan. And just to throw in a bit of spice for y'all, I'm gonna use an old school router and prove that, yes, I can use tools other than the CNC. We were getting real close. I marked the lines to cut it to exact size while it was upstairs, brought it down here. We used the track saw to trim it down, hit all the edges with a roundover bit, and then we'll be ready for the finish. This wood honey, it's just too cool not to call out. I mean, how clever is that packaging? Gotta love it. Wash my fingers. And it is in and it fits perfectly. I am very, very happy that I decided to go with the notch wraparound look instead of doing the rabbet all the way across. I think that is a much better and cleaner transition between the butcher block and the concrete countertop. And as always, I'd love to know what you guys think. What do you like? What didn't you like? What might have you done differently? Some of you guys might have caught a glimpse of the rest of the kitchen and noticed there is a lot of work that's been done since I last shared with you guys. I basically took 2 months off of editing and posting to YouTube so I could just get the kitchen done because, quite frankly, I was sick of living without a kitchen in my home and life just took precedence. But I, of course, filmed it all. I've got a bunch more videos, including the backsplash, pull-out pantries, and of course, the big before and after tour and kitchen reveal. I'm more excited for the kitchen reveal than I have been probably any video since I bought this building almost 2 years ago. So if you aren't already subbed, make sure that you sub for that. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you get notified when that video goes live. And of course, much love to all you out there for supporting the channel and making it possible to do what I love for a living. That's it for this time, and I will see you guys next time.